Good evening, everyone. I am about to get started in a couple seconds or minutes, depending on how long it takes. Just need to load up some music and we will get started.
Rage on that beat, going crazy.
Hi, everyone. I hope that you haven't been waiting too long. I just had to get the music loaded, but I'm ready to go. Sorry about that. I was delayed this evening, believe it or not, by the most unlikely candidate, a fly. Wouldn't let me eat. So it took me a few more minutes than I wanted to get started, but yeah, that's over now. So I'm here and we're going to jump right in shortly. As I would have mentioned on Twitter, I am going to be doing mock-ups and templates today. So we're going to basically be looking at how to use templates in Inkscape and how to do website mockups. This is not going to be a one and done stream. We're going to look at this over a number of different streams. So this is basically a series or a number of series, but I don't want to throw too many projects into one thing. I would have been talking about like website mockups and stuff for a long time, so this isn't like me starting some other new thing that I'll forget later. This is something I've been talking about for a while that I want to get to and, you know, get that out of the way, you could say. But it's a topic that can go on and on and on for a while, so only God knows how long this will take to complete, but we will get there. Yeah, so one of the first things I want to let you know before we jump into anything in terms of details is that Inkscape does not support HTML and CSS output, at least not as far as I'm aware. Let me just double check that before I go any further. But I don't think it does. I've never seen it anywhere in here. So let me just quickly run through these output formats. Right, there's no sign of HTML anywhere in here. Oh wait, there is HTML5 canvas, but that's not what we're talking about when we are talking about actually doing website mockups. So you can't do like Photoshop and Figma and those other apps and services where you can actually directly export from Inkscape to a website, but you can still do mockups in Inkscape. And I personally, when I do actually do mockups, which is rare, I do tend to use Inkscape to do them because you can do something really quick and you can get pretty solid results. But something I haven't done in a while that I plan to do this evening as well is to do a quick wallpaper, and that shouldn't take too long. I used to do that every single stream, and I plan to do that today just for a little bit of fun, and that will most likely be posted on my website, which I have to update. So maybe at some point we'll do a mock-up for the website and then turn it into code live on stream, so you'll actually get to see me building it. I like to let you into the process, let you see what I'm doing behind the scenes. So yeah. Oh, and another thing, you can share this on Twitter and any other social media that you're on so others can watch if you're enjoying it. And if you've been enjoying the past streams and you want to see them again, you can go to my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/RolandDixor, ROLANDIXOR, and you can watch all of my past streams. Well, not all, because I maybe missed one or two in the past, but you can watch most of my past streams on there. Okay, so just give me a second again. Like I always do, I'm going to share on social media myself, and then we will jump right into it. Alright, so let's go from there. We have in Inkscape the option to create from a new template, or you can save as a template. But what we'll be covering today basically is using the templates that are built in. I'm not going to cover saving templates today, but the file that I normally work with in Inkscape is actually a custom template that I built and saved manually. You can now save them from within Inkscape in newer versions. In older versions you had to actually manually create the file that you wanted and then save it in the right folder depending on the platform you're on. You no longer have to do that. But if you go to File, New Template, or New From Template, you'll see this window here, and this will show you all of the templates that are included with Inkscape itself, as well as any documents that you have saved as your custom templates, like this one here, new document with all the numbers to give you the date and time when it was saved. That is obviously a document I would have created, and also Redbubble item is another custom template that I built, because that doesn't come with Inkscape typically. You can also use these built-in templates that generate a particular size of canvas or whatever, so like you can have an icon of any custom size, or you can have a blank page, and then you have different options. Now you can't save a file and add these options. They're only available for those that are auto-generated, but we're not going to be using any of those today. I'm just showing you basically what Inkscape has built in. Maybe in a future stream I'll actually go through these in a little more detail, and in terms of, you know, using the different features of different templates and stuff like that. Not really necessary for most people, because most of us aren't working with print media or business cards or any of that stuff when we're using Inkscape. Most of us are doing digital graphics and stuff like that. But in case you have to do those other things, I may cover them, so you can let me know, probably, you know, through social media or even in the chat, if you want me to cover those things, and I will get back to them as soon as I can. Okay, so yeah, but today I'm going to just use the default template that I would have created from before. And what I'm going to do actually is change the dimensions a little bit, because I want to create a comic strip. And oh yeah, I didn't explain what I was doing. I should have done that. You can edit the document properties from here, or you can go to edit. Where is it in the edit menu? I don't even remember. But yeah, it should be somewhere up in here, I believe. Is it? Oh no, sorry, it's file, not edit. But yeah, file, document properties, and you can change your document properties from in there. I'm not going to cover all of them today, because as you can see there are a lot of options. But basically what I want to do is change the dimensions. So I'm going to make this a square, 1024 by 1024 pixels. And when you're working on screens, make sure that you're using pixels. If you're going to be using print media, usually you use millimeters or centimeters or inches, but on screens make sure you have everything set to pixels. If not, you can run into some issues with size. Okay, oops, got a mail notification there. Let me disable those. I don't really care what Hugh Jackman is doing right now, so I don't need any mail notifications about comicbook.com at this point in time, so let me just suspend these for a while. Sorry about that. Alright, so Let me get back to this now. We are going to be building first a comic strip. I'm going to do a wallpaper at some point. I was going to do that first, but I kind of move on a whim sometimes, so my apologies. I may have said I'll do that first, but I'll do that probably a little later. So before we leave, at some point I'll get to the wallpaper and you'll get to see me design that quickly. I'm going to try to do a kind of speed design on that. Yeah, but okay, so today, as I said, started with a comic strip. So the first thing you need is a backdrop, because they're not going to do a blank background for this. You can use any color, but I'm going to, well then again, let me stick with yellow. Yellow actually would be an interesting thing for this, so let's make it a yellow background, 1024 by 1024, and choose, under align and distribute, choose page and center it vertically and horizontally. And then we're going to save this layer as backdrop. Before I lock this layer, what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to give this an outline. So I'm going to duplicate this object. Let me just move it a little bit. Make this one behind it white. Then make the yellow square smaller. Make it 1000 pixels by 1000 pixels. Of course, you can do that easily by making sure that width and height are locked. And then I'm going to put it back in the center again. Right, so that's a nice outline there. And then we're going to lock this layer called backdrop, and the next layer will be panel 0 or panel 1, whichever numbering system you choose to use. I like to go with 0 because I am a programmer, so we come from 0. We're a little bit different, but if you're not into that kind of thing, you can just number from 1 and go up. And in panel 0, what I'm going to do is add another square. Now what I'm going to do to save myself some trouble is actually use some mathematics. So 1000 divided by 4. Let me put this in brackets actually. And then I'm going to take away 10 from that. That gives me 240. And then over here I'm going to put 240 again. Actually, I don't want it that small. Let me see. In fact, what I'm going to do, 1000 divided by 4. Oops, I put 100, I meant. Yeah, I would have. I don't know why I did that just that was a little silly of me, but yeah, I want it to be divided into 4 equal parts, and I'm thinking 240 by 2. Let me see how it works, because it might actually give me the result I'm looking for. It probably just doesn't look so in my head right now. Right, so let me just see if these will arrange exactly as I'm thinking in my head. And I need them to be a little bit bigger. Alright, so I'm gonna delete that one, make this a little bit bigger than it is already. We made this about 420. That's not big enough. About 480. Yeah, 480 should do the trick. Now I like to show you all this process because design isn't always a straightforward matter of just jumping in and knowing what you're going to do. You have to do some playing around sometimes, some trial and error before you get things figured out sometimes. So that's what was happening there. Alright, so I have the sizes I want figured out, so all I'm going to do, let me just delete this one. Or in fact, let me leave it and move it to the layer above it. We call this panel 1. And then we're going to duplicate this layer once and then again. Call this one panel 2. The fourth panel will be panel 3. Alright, so now I'm going to lock panel 0, choose panel 1. Alright, but let me lock panels 2 and 3 as well. Choose panel 1, well, the square in panel 1, and move that to the bottom down here. Now I know that they're actually aligning to the corners, but don't worry, we will fix that shortly. Alright, so then in panel 2, making sure that all the other layers are locked, let's move this one down to here. You see, I'm wondering if I made a mistake somewhere, because I probably do have an extra. Oh right, I didn't make a mistake in terms of the number of them, I just have them in the wrong position. So panel 3 and panel 1, let me see, yeah, they need to swap places, so let me move panel 1 up there and panel 3 down here. I'll just rename them. I put them in the wrong location, sorry about that. Alright, there we go. So now you have 4 individual panels. We're going to unlock all of these. Doing is I'm just putting these in a rough sense where I want them to be in relation to the background. Then I'm going to use align and distribute, choosing biggest object, align them horizontally, and then I'm going to choose last selected and select this one and align vertically. Do the same thing over here. Align these both horizontally. That should do the trick. And then you can select all of these. I believe you can do this on canvas now, so let me see if I can get it done correctly. Oh no. Okay, I forget the on canvas one will function according to the page itself. So temporarily what I'm going to actually have to do is group all of these and then put them back on their actual layers when I'm done. So grouping everything, align them to the page, then ungroup them, and we're just going to put them back in the layers that they belong to. I should have actually done that before I put them in their individual layers, but I did not think that through, so my apologies. But typically when you're doing this, align them first, then put them in their layers, and that should save you all that trouble. But I won't go back through it and confuse you even further, so yeah. Alright, so now everything is aligned as it should be. So this is a comic book panel. A basic comic book panel, of course. Let me see something here. Panel 3 has... Oh, I know what happened. Panel 3 has panel 0's panel as well. Let me move that in. Panel 0. Alright, so everything should be in place now, I believe. Yeah, there we go. The last thing I want to add to this before I actually create a comic and show you how you would lock everything to its individual layers is I'm going to add a signature layer. Now as far as I'm aware, I would have to double check the documentation on this, but as far as I'm aware, Inkscape doesn't allow you to lock panel sizes, so you have to actually use clipping to simulate that. So what I'm going to do here is add a transparent object. But before I actually make it transparent, let me give it a color so I can see what size it is. So this will be roughly the size of our signature, or at least where it would fit. Now if you want, you can leave this color intact and you can duplicate this layer so that what you do is you have, or let me actually demonstrate it instead of saying it. It's easier to demonstrate. So I just duplicated that layer. Let me just make sure that actually was, yeah, okay, it actually was duplicated. So this layer, I'm going to select the object and make it transparent. Just turn the alpha to 0. And I'm going to leave this signature here as a blue rectangle, but I'm going to call this boundary. In fact, what I'm going to do with the blue rectangle is give it an outline and turn off the fill. So stroke is on, fill is off. Let me turn that back to a kind of bluish color. My apologies if any of this gets a little confusing at any point. It's just a simple matter of that when you're designing, sometimes you have to make decisions on the fly. That's just how things work. If I did this as a tutorial, all of my on the fly decisions would be edited out, so you wouldn't get to see that process. But I like when I'm streaming not to kind of try to edit things down to, you know, that kind of straightforward level. I like to keep it at a point where you can see the process for what it is. Alright, so that doesn't need to move. Let me just leave that there. Right, so the signature boundary will not be visible in the final comic. This is what you would see without any things added to the panels. But the signature boundary is there so that when you actually do write your signature, that you have an idea of where it would fit. And the layer above it, call this container, signature container. This will actually hold your signature, but it will have a transparent object in it. Let me make sure it's still there. Great. So it has a transparent object in it, and that transparent object will actually be used to clip your signature within the boundary. Okay? So what I'm actually going to do now is add my signature, not my actual written signature, so no one can forge it. But I'm going to write a kind of fancy font here, well, with a fancy font here. Alright, in fact, let me use DKG handwriting. That is nowhere near my actual handwriting, but it looks good enough, so we'll leave it. Now the other reason why you want to have this transparent rectangle here is it will allow you to align your signature even better than you would if you were to just drop it on the page and drag it around. So what we're going to do is select everything in the layer, go to align and distribute, and I forgot to change the setting, not page. Choose biggest object and then align vertically or horizontally, and there you have it. Now your signature is in position correctly. And in the layers you can turn off signature boundary. You could even delete it if you want, but I'm going to leave it there in case we need to move the signature or change it or anything else. And then you can lock signature container, and so now your comic book panels are basically complete. So in terms of adding content, we're not going to do a full-fledged comic today. I'm just going to do a rough something. So if it isn't funny, forgive me. I'm not putting on my comedian hat today. I'm just basically showing you how this is done. And I'm only going to do one panel because then you can iterate for the rest of the panels on your own. So in panel 0, what I'm going to do is actually draw something to fit in here. So let me see, what will I draw? How about somebody walking down the street? Is this working? It is moving, but I'm not seeing anything. Okay, what happened there? I have no idea what just happened, because my mouse works but the tablet is not drawing anything with the tablet for some reason. Or do I need to change the nib on this? I hope not. Oh, Inkscape is just being special today. Okay, it has nothing to do with the tablet itself, just Inkscape being special for no reason. Alright, so this is a rough street here, and let's put a stick figure walking on it. Inkscape is really running slow, but we forgive you, Inkscape. You had a hard day, clearly. Alright, so let's just add a circle for this guy's head, because I'm not fighting with Inkscape's drawing tools today. I don't know why they're running so slow. Now, of course, this here is outside the boundary of the panel, and that's deliberate. Even though I wasn't trying to draw the line there, I do want it to be outside the boundary of the panel. But let me resize this stuff a bit to make it even more so outside the panel and even more so obvious. So let me move this stuff around just a little bit. Alright, so now you can see these panels here will overlap because they're on higher layers, but everything within this layer other than the panel itself is overlapping the panel. So you may be wondering, how do we get all this stuff to fit within the panel? Well, with everything but the panel selected, hit group so it all operates as one object. Then hold shift and select the panel, right click and use set clip. Oops. That wasn't supposed to happen. Alright. Oh. Let me see if I did that any wrong. Did I? This should have worked just now when I do set clip. I must be missing something here. Alright folks, let me see if I can figure this one out, because normally it works pretty straightforward with this, even if I draw an object. Alright, let me move these out of here. I'm going to use a different method, since I am not able to figure out why when I set clip that is actually trying to basically clip to these instead of the panel. What I'm going to do is export the selection. This is not usually how you do it, by the way. Normally you just set clip and it will clip whatever thing you have drawn to your panel. So I have to double check, probably off stream, why that is happening, but I'm not going to take up the time of that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to export the selection as a PNG. This is normally not necessary, but in this case I'm not going to waste the time trying to wrestle with that. So I've exported that as a PNG, just have to import it again. And by the way, I don't mind when these things happen and things go wrong, because it shows you that sometimes you have to innovate and you have to basically try to find workarounds to things, because not everything will work as you plan. Like this stuff here, I do this all the time and typically I don't get the issue I got just now, so I need to double check and see if I forgot something or if something is just going wrong today or whatever. Things happen, but you always need to be able to innovate. So if you set clip and it doesn't work like you need, move it off to the side of the canvas, export selection, import the PNG, and then just align. So align to last selected, and oh, you know what my mistake is? I now remember what my mistake is, because this here is, yeah, that's my problem. Alright, what I need to do actually is duplicate the panel. I forgot to do this part, so that's my mistake. Now I know why I'm getting that problem. Duplicate the panel itself, and right, Alright, so let me delete this. Didn't need all that PNG stuff. I don't know how I forgot this one critical step, because the background needs to have some kind of color, so that's my mistake there. But in any case, when those things do happen, still a good lesson to be able to innovate and to be able to work around things. So let me just go back to this here, and alright, I need to move this up. Then select the duplicated panel and group. And I'm going to move those off to the side. Select this. Right, align to last selected, and then set clip. Still not working like I wanted. Alright, let's use that export to PNG trick again. I do not know why that is happening today. Computers always have a way of making you look like you don't know what you're doing when you're trying to demonstrate something. Happens without fail every single time. So we're gonna have to import the PNG again, and hopefully this time it won't get the problem that I got just now. Alright, I feel like throwing my hands in the air at this point because I'm not sure what I am forgetting or what is going wrong. So what I'm going to do instead is just import an actual picture of something and see if Inkscape will work with that as I want it to. Instead of drawing a panel, I'll have to probably do this stream again and show you how to do a panel when I can figure out what it is that's going wrong here. Alright, so select this, set clip. Something is definitely wrong. Or wait a minute, you know what I'm now remembering that I did wrong? I can't believe this. Panel needs to be above the object that I'm setting clip on. Right! Can you believe I forgot that one critical step to put the object below the panel? I can't believe I forgot that. I could have avoided all of that trouble by just remembering that one simple thing. But that happens, and I don't mind y'all seeing mistakes or seeing me forget things, because that's all part of being human. So yeah, never forget when you're going to set clip on something, the thing that's on the top is the one that actually ends up getting clipped and not the one at the bottom. So, well, no, it's the other way around. The one at the bottom ends up getting clipped, not the one at the top. So put whatever object you're trying to clip to a path on the bottom of the Z index, and then or below it on the Z index, and then you can clip. So let me undo that and remove this image since we don't need it anymore. Put this back in position. Whew, I could have saved so much time by remembering that. Okay, so let me see, this should work now. There we go. So all of that trouble could have been saved, but in any case, there we are. Yeah, so that's basically how you would create a panel. You can then repeat the process without all my mistakes and all my forgetting. You can repeat the process in all the other panels. So just to show you clean this time, without any mistakes because of me forgetting anything, we go back to panel 1 now and create a new something here. So we're going to put two people talking at a table or something. Okay, let me not use a line. Let me just draw a rectangle. Just a side note, but I'm slightly surprised that there are not more comic strips out there, seeing as it is so easy to create them. There really should be a lot more of this content, especially knowing we really could do it for a laugh every day. It really should be. So that's my encouragement. Get out there and make some comic strips. I need something to laugh at. if you keep running into problems like I am with selecting the object you don't want, you could put all this on a temporary layer and then you can clip it still. So what I'm going to do is actually add a layer below this one. I'm going to call this temp for temporary. Move all these objects to temporary, and then I'm going to turn off panel 1. Let me just make sure this gets moved as well. Right, so with panel 1 off, I can work now with ease without having to worry about anything getting put where I don't want it. Alright, so then I just select everything. Wait, let me make this table actually have a fill as well. Alright, so select everything here. Turn back on panel 1. Select this and set clip. Alright, wait, let me... 1 second here. Alright, so select everything, group, move to layer, panel 1. Alright, and then in panel 1, move these down, select that, and set clip. But basically, you're going to need to duplicate this if you want, because you obviously want a background to your layer, so let me duplicate that just to avoid the transparent background issue. Select these. Right, there we go. So now you have panel 2, and you can do all of this in the rest of your panels and build your comic strip like that. Now if you wanted and you wanted to give it a title, you could obviously make your panel smaller and put something at the top here. So let me just demonstrate that quickly. Let me delete, well, in fact, instead of deleting temp, let me put this at the top as title. Oops. I keep pressing enter by accident. Alright, so let me select everything in these panels. Holding shift, resize like that. I forgot to move the signature as well, so let me just undo that and then select everything again, and there we go. And I'm just going to move these downward. Now if you wanted, you could stretch these out and have them touch the corners, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to distort the image, so I'm just going to leave them as they are for now. But of course, you can do whatever you want with your own comic strip. This is just a demonstration, so it doesn't really matter that much. But in title, what I'm going to do is add another panel. I'm not being very exact in this case, but normally you would want to grab the dimensions of those two objects selected together and make sure that the title is the same width as them and put it in the very center of the page. This time I'm going to use the Venerable Comic Sans. Inkscape can be slightly annoying by selecting something that you did not, if your settings are not set correctly. So I would need, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, you can set your tools settings in preferences, so if you want, you can have, let me see, does it have one for text? Yes, it does. Right, so instead of last use style, you can use tools on style. And if I remember correctly, it should choose the last font that you had as well. But I'm not going to do that this time, just leaving it as it works normally. But it still can be a little bit annoying because you choose a font before you write, and then Inkscape goes back to the last font that you use. I really don't like that, but it is what it is. Alright, so you can spice this up as much as you want. You can add decorations, you can add whatever, but in this case I'm just giving you the very basic steps that you need to take to create a comic strip. And now that you know how to do this, you can do it on your own. You can iterate from this. If you miss anything, you can watch the stream over. Just skip the part where I completely forgot the very important detail of making sure the object that you are clipping is below the thing that is being used to clip it, and make sure that you have a duplicate panel as well to clip to, so that you still retain your background, unless of course you're planning to design a comic where the panels are not clear and obvious and you just want to have a white background with different images side by side. You can do that as well, but typically I would advise you to use actually visible backgrounds. You can either have a different color to the background like I have here, or you can add an outline to each of these panels and make them all obvious and clear and all that stuff. So with all that said and done, let us move on to the next thing that I wanted to do today, which of course is website mockups. So I'm going to save this file first. Close, which will automatically give me a new template based on the default file that I had saved in my preferences. So let me see, what height and what width do I want for this? So about 1600 by 1200, or better yet, you know what, let me go with something a little more modern. I don't know if this is even used on systems anymore. I'm just going with something that I can remember from working with video and stuff like that, you know, that is close to a typical screen size, or at least when you full screen a video on YouTube, that's the size it will be in. So that's what I'm using for this one. Alright, so website mockups, of course, you have a lot of flexibility when you're building these, but I'm going to go with the basics of what most people would be looking for in a typical website today, which is, you know, the kind of what do they call it now, hero, you know, that you have a hero banner or whatever it's called, and then you have all this space, useless, pointless space. Yeah, that's how we design websites these days, so that's what I'm going to design. But I'm also going to include a nav area and a few other items. So first thing you want to do, of course, is add your backdrop layer. Just going to rename layer 1 to backdrop, and then header and nav bar. Now for each item that I add, I'm most likely going to add a layer unless it's a group of things like buttons or whatever. And this will allow you to create even multiple pages on the same template or on the same mockup. Okay, so let me just make this the size of the page by 720. trying to choose one of those colors that's a little more common these days. I'm trying to think like someone who's thinking inside the box, which is not normal for me. I am very much outside the box. If you see my website, you will see I'm still using glass, and a lot of people have moved on from that. I plan to change it though in the near future because I've gotten a little tired with the glass effect that I have on my website, but I'm not one of those in the box thinkers. So you won't see a lot of the same old designs that everybody uses. I like to do stuff a little differently. That's just me. You don't have to be that way, that's just how I am. Let's say we're using a gradient as your background. I'm actually going to do that this time, so I've created a gradient, linear gradient of course, or better yet, let me use a mesh gradient this time. You can't use a mesh gradient on in CSS, but let's say you use a SVG as your background, you could do that. So that's what I'm going to do here. So let me go to the node editor. Mesh tool, shouldn't it be this? Or am I forgetting something again? Alright, let me keep this simple because I remember the last time I used the mesh gradient, going in the node editor and changing the colors. I must be forgetting something again, so I'm just going to keep it simple and refresh my memory off stream. So yeah, let me use a simple gradient that you can use in CSS instead of confusing everybody. Let's go with a green and blue gradient today. Just a pro tip for anybody else who gets into streaming, don't be like me and be so haphazard. Most people will be confused. Let me lock this stuff to the grid. To turn on the grid, use Shift and 3 on your keyboard if you're using a US Dvorak layout. Right, and there you go. So that's a gradient background, nice and fancy and all that stuff. Then you can lock the background layer and go to header. So you're gonna add now this won't actually be visible, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just leaving it as this color for now to know where it is. Lock it to the center of the page. Now if you're wondering why I added this, basically when you're working with like say a header or whatever in a Rail website, it will be limited to certain dimensions. So instead of just adding an object and then trying to fiddle around to where it should go, well, adding text, sorry, and fiddling around to where it should go, I'm going to use this object to align the text. So let me add the title that I want to work with. And of course we do not use Comic Sans on actual websites, so let me use something a little more popular, like Roboto. The cool thing about Inkscape is that you have different color formats you can use as well. So if you wanted to, you could have your RGB values and everything straight from here and copy them over to your CSS, or you can copy this value here and use it in your CSS as well. And if you're like me and you use a color picker app on your computer, like Pink on Linux for instance, you can copy the colors directly from there and drop them in Inkscape, or you can copy the colors from your CSS file and drop them into here, and basically that's how you can keep all your colors and stuff consistent between mockups and your CSS. That was just a side note. I'm not actually going to do that today, but I just wanted to mention that in case you actually were wondering if that's possible. So even though Inkscape cannot directly export to CSS, you can still keep certain things intact, at least. The funny thing is, technically, I could design a website in Inkscape and use the SVG. You just have to know what you're doing on the level of actually editing the XML file, but you can build an entire website in Inkscape. You can even add links from Inkscape. I don't do that because I prefer to work with the HTML and CSS and JavaScript and all that code directly, but if you want to, you can actually add your links, you can add CSS code, everything from an Inkscape. You can use the XML editor and do a whole bunch of other fancy stuff, and you could build an entire SVG website in a sense from an Inkscape and add your extra functionality in a text editor if you have to, and that would basically be it. But I don't recommend doing that unless you really know what you're doing. Alright, so we select biggest object as the relative value and center everything there. So now your header is in position, well, the header text is in position, and this object you can actually turn it transparent. Then lock that. And now for the navbar, we're going to do a similar thing to what we did with the header. So I'm going to add an object that will eventually be transparent. What I'm going to do is align this to the top of the page in the corner over here. This gives us a nice boundary as to how far things can go, so I can then add my buttons. Actually, let me show you another cool trick of Inkscape. So let's say, let me make this a definitive width, by the way. Let's make this 735 instead. And the height will be 75. Just make sure it's aligned again, and then duplicate this, and in width, unlock that first. In width, we're going to do 735 divided by 5, and then 75. Well, we don't need to do math on that one, that's pretty straightforward. So let's make this 45 pixels high. And then we're going to duplicate this 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That was Control D on my keyboard. I don't have any apps to show you my keyboard shortcuts, so my apologies for that. Alright, so let me just select all these, make them white so you can actually see them. Align them to the center of this object. Select the one on the top and put it to this corner over here. And then now we're going to select all of these and distribute centers, well, make the horizontal gaps between the objects equal, sorry. Right, and there you go. So now you have a row of buttons very quickly and very easily. And then you can either delete or make this transparent. In this case, I'm just going to make it transparent. And we're going to do the same thing with these shortly, actually. So before I do that, let me just add some text. Of course, these buttons are not all going to say home, but I'm just doing this to quickly duplicate the text that I created. so I don't need to keep adding text objects over and over. What I'm going to do from here is select all the text objects that I just created and change their font size. Cool thing about Inkscape is you can modify a whole bunch of text objects without having to go into each individual one and do that. So I'm going to do it just from here by selecting all of them and then changing the values one time. Alright, so everything now is in a nice position. The other cool thing about Inkscape is that once you have centered these objects, they will basically stay within the position they were in because the origin of each object is in the center already. So they'll stay horizontally centered in the object that they were centered in from before. It's just that their vertical alignment may change a little bit due to the fact that I've resized them. So I'll have to then just set back their vertical alignment to what it should be, and then I can make all of these transparent, all these button objects transparent. Of course I'm going to want to turn the text white now so that you can actually see it against the background. Should work. I'm going to turn down the opacity, well, the alpha, sorry, by a bit as well. Right, and then we can add another nice little fancy something below here, like a line or whatever. Because this already has a transparent object that's still there, Inkscape will still recognize the transparent object, and that allows me to align the corner of this line I just added to the corner of the transparent object that tells us how wide our nav bar is supposed to be. So I don't need to actually manually set the width of this to 735. I just needed to find the corner there, and with snapping enabled, it snaps to the corner automatically. So that saves me some trouble, and it also helps you to design accurately what your website would eventually look like if you were building this template for, you know, something that actually has to follow certain guidelines or whatever. It's really useful. So next thing I want to do, of course, is add another button. So I'm going to go to a new layer for that. Make this a button group instead. Oh, and in case you're wondering, why would you design a mockup in Inkscape and not in Canva or in Figma or whatever that other people are using, or in Photoshop, seeing as Inkscape can't directly export? Well, the cool thing is most browsers support SVG, so I can load this in a browser and see what it looks like directly. I mean, yes, you can export PNG as well and do all that stuff, but you can export this to a browser. You can use the inspector and look at the colors and different stuff like that. And as I said from before, you could, if you know what you're doing, turn an SVG into a full website, so you can save yourself some trouble there. But the other cool part is you can copy your text directly from an SVG and all that. It's kind of like working with a PDF document in a way. So there's some small benefits that you get from using Inkscape. I won't say that it's like the best thing in the world to use for website mockups, but it is still relatively useful if you know what you're doing. So it's my personal choice to use it for that. I wouldn't say that it's like, you know, an industry standard or a game changer or anything, but it's still pretty useful as far as I'm concerned, and it helps me get stuff done quickly, at least because I'm familiar with it too. But if you are not, use whatever you are more comfortable with. I'm just giving you another option. These are two objects. Sorry about that, me going blank and silent just now. I was thinking in my head and not out loud. I almost forgot that I'm on a stream and I need to talk to you. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah. What I'm trying to do here is actually to decide what I want to do with these two, if to leave them as just plain old text and don't pretend that they're supposed to be on buttons or not. But I'll actually put them on buttons to make life easier. And instead of doing the whole transparency trick that I did up there, I'm going to actually use these as buttons. Let me see something. Can Inkscape do what I want it to do though? I don't remember. I don't think it can. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add rounded corners to these, and then I'm going to turn them off on one side each. So let me make these rounded by, well, not 15, because 15 is not enough. 35 by 35. Yeah, that should do it. In fact, I wonder. Yeah, let me delete this one. Or no, let me leave this intact. Move that down here. Duplicate this. Sorry, folks. I am in designer mode, so I am going through ideas in my head. That's what's happening. And let me get you some fresh music too, because the music just stopped. Alright, so over here, move these to the center. Of course, this bounce button is just for sport. You wouldn't actually put that on a real website unless you absolutely have no clue what you're doing. I just did that for a little bit of a laugh, because basically you don't want people to bounce from your website. You want them to stick around. Alright, so we're going to use Union on these. Why isn't this selecting the other object? There we go. Let me just make this text black, and these buttons should actually be white. So we're going to turn the alpha up to full. Let me use right. Too much text going on there, so let me take out company. Just use Explore Bounce instead. Less is more when it comes to buttons. Don't put too much text on your buttons, or people will be lost and confused and annoyed and all that, because the brain can't process so much information so quickly. So less is more. Alright, that looks pretty nice. And then a nice little copyright footer at the bottom. Use a font called Go Small Caps that I found recently. I really like this one. I don't know if it's on Google Fonts or not, but it's pretty cool. Alright, so that is that for now when it comes to our website mockup. I could add some more fancy stuff to this, like showing you what buttons look like when they're clicked and all that, and basically all you need to do is duplicate button group and add your other buttons and stuff, and you could then use this if you wanted to build an interactive mockup. You could export your assets from here similarly to how you would do with any other app. The only thing with Inkscape, as I told you, you can't export you cannot export HTML and CSS, but the cool thing is if you're really skilled with SVG, you can add animations, you can add all that other stuff directly into your code, and you can then demo that from within your browser. And it's a lot more useful in my opinion than using, say, like, you know, a regular program like Photoshop or whatever, which may be able to export your HTML and CSS for you, but it doesn't give you as much versatility as SVG does. I probably may take some time in the not too far future if I actually get around to playing with that stuff for myself and actually demo it, because it's pretty cool. It's just that me personally, I never really played with that other side of SVG myself, but it's something that you might want to check out if you're really interested in finding out the full capacity of what you can do, because I've actually seen someone build an entire website in SVG. I don't know if they did it in Inkscape, I highly doubt that, but they did a whole map, and the map is interactive. So just letting you know, this can go a lot further than what I did here today. This is just basically the very basics, but in the near future I'm going to take this very mockup that I did here and turn this into code, show you how it's done. So hopefully you'll come back for that soon and see how it's done. So yeah, that said, I'm going to cut it short today. I'm not going to go for an hour and a half or anything. Calling it quits for now this evening. Let me just save this file. Oh, I forgot. I nearly did forget, so I hopefully won't go to an hour and a half, but I told you I was going to do a wallpaper, so let me actually do that. Let me create a new... I almost forgot to do this, even though I had promised that I would. And I used to do this every single stream at the beginning, and I probably may do it in the future going forward. Get back to doing wallpapers you can actually download when I'm done. So let me do this quickly. I have in mind to do a little girl holding a balloon on a green background or a purple background, one or two. So let me see how quickly I can do this. And I'm giving myself no more than 20 minutes, which is a long time actually, so see how quickly I can get this done. this music is getting kind of boring. Sorry if you like it, but I don't. I'm gonna switch the music quickly, folks. My apologies. Okie doke, let's go. Let's see how quickly I can get this done. So I'm gonna need let me lock that there. I'm gonna need a rectangle. This will function as our little girl, or at least her dress. Alright, so there's her waist. But man, no hands. I don't know why, but that's one of my favorite lines in all of history. Oh, welcome to the new viewer who just joined. You missed all the fun, but you're gonna still get to see me design a wallpaper really quickly. Note to self, do not over-obsess over this design, because I gave myself less than 20 minutes. Alright, so that's her dress. Now let's give her a face. Although technically she won't have a face because I was planning to do this from behind. Or should I? I don't know. If you have a different opinion, you can drop it in the chat. If you want to see a face, you can let me know. If you don't, you can also let me know. Now, if you've watched my previous streams on the Humanality Project, you're probably picking up on something by now, which is the fact that I'm actually using the same principles of design consistency and design commonality that I would have covered in that stream to simplify this design process. Is not cooperating with me as much as I want right now. I'm gonna try to give her some nice looking hair in a short period of time. Can I do it? Our contestant is faced with the challenge of turning this girl's hair into something pretty in less than 10 minutes. Can he do it? Will he do it? Stick around and find out. I think that looks pretty nice. By the way, if you've never heard me do any voice impressions before, congratulations on your first time. Now she has a nice neck and shoulders. Let's give her face some shape. There we go. Now, isn't she pretty? And that was pretty fast to me. I don't normally design people so quickly, so I'm pretty proud of myself for that. I mean, it is kind of low poly, but it still looks pretty good. So let me now give her some arms. Almost out of time. since I gave myself a time limit, I'm gonna have to finish this one quickly because I don't have time to perfect everything. And I've been trying to learn to actually practice being happy with things when they're not perfect, or at least not to my standard of perfection. So I'm going to live with it that this is not my standard of perfection, but hey, it still looks pretty okay, I think. Why did Inkscape add an extra node when I did not ask it to? Minutes left. Can I do it? For a skirt and I'll be done. So 1 minute left to do this. I'm gonna run out of time, at least the time I gave myself, but after this I'm done and I'm gonna sign off from the stream. If this was an Olympic event, I would not have made a record because I started at about 1:06 on the stream in terms of time, and I just ran over my 20-minute mark, but I still did pretty good, I think. recap on it there. I'm going to export this and I'm going to put it on my page not too long from now, and you can grab it as a free download. And probably I'll make this available on my stores and stuff like that if you want to grab it as well, as maybe a wallpaper or art print or whatever you want to use it as. Until next time, you can find me on Twitter, twitter.com/RolandXR, youtube.com/RolandXR, twitch.tv/RolandXR, or RolandXR.pro/streaming, and all that good stuff. You can find me on Facebook too, but I don't usually respond on there, so I don't recommend it too highly, but I am on there if that's your platform of choice. But yeah, so until next time, you can find me wherever you are more likely to be. Drop me a message for what you want to see in the next stream, or if you have any questions, or if you want to learn design, web design, graphic design, CSS, Inkscape, HTML, anything like that, you can also hit me up on any of my platforms that I'm on, and I'll see what we can do about that. Alright, so look out soon for a new Inkscape tutorial as well on my YouTube channel. I am Roland Taylor, and I will see you next week.